Okay, great. So welcome to our overview of DynamxMFG. So what we're going to do today is just kind of take you through a light overview of the Dynamics platform, kind of just touching points on how we would take in a sales order, how that gets released, then over to the shop floor, how the shop floor will have the opportunity then to actually carry out the work, how it's being tracked, and then how that's actually then monitored in the background, and we can actually see that work carried out live, and if there's any stoppages, any bottlenecks, and the decisions that obviously can be made behind that. One of the key areas we'll be covering as well today is that because we're capturing live data, is with all that data, you want to be able to push it out to report and then be able to make a decision around that could affect the shop floor. As we always say, reviewing data the following day for the previous day, it's too late. So we want that live data coming through in real time and then be able to actually act upon that. So where we're going to start with is our home screen. And what we're currently looking at the moment is a series of widgets on our dashboard. And the great thing is these can be set up for any department, set the permissions so they can view their own dashboard. And that could cover a range of things. So what we're currently seeing is an overview where we're seeing things like stoppages, if we have any low stock item levels, any upcoming orders, any release orders, overdue orders, etc. And what we currently do is to show you some of the ones that we've set up for different departments. So we can see stoppages, purchasing, and finance. Again, on the dashboards, they are active. So you can actually click into the works orders and we can go in slightly deeper dive. We can then actually have a look to see where that stoppage is occurring, who's been working on it, what the issues are, etc. And then actually make a decision around that. So where we're going to take you through next, we're actually going to start with our customers. So we're going to start with the sales order, the information that we can capture, and then how that gets released and pushed onto the shop floor. So as we can see, we have an array of examples of some sales orders that have been raised. We can see a variety of different statuses, things that are currently in draft, some have been released, some of them have been cancelled, and some currently in the quote stage. So if we quickly click into one of our test sales orders, so as we can see, there's a number of data and information that we can capture at this point. One of the areas is that if you see on the left-hand side, we can set the priority, we can look at the production date, when it's required by, delivery date, etc., and kind of capture that information. We can see on the actual current draft, we can have a look and see what is being ordered. From this stage, there's a number of things we're able to do. We can adjust the sales price, the quantity, if a discount applies to the client, but as well as we can actually go into the BOM. So if we quickly click into that, so what we can currently see, we can see the design BOM, the bill of materials, as well as the manufacturing BOM. So if there are any additional items the client would actually like to add to that, we can actually go ahead and add those additional features. Once we've selected a number of these, we can then add it. And then when we return back to our quote, they will appear. And at that point, you can actually send that off to the client and get them to approve that. That way you can actually build up one of your items. So you can take a stock item or a stock build and then actually modify that to a client's needs. That's just one of the features that you can actually do from this point. As you can see with the select of the different statuses, so we're currently in a draft. We can put this into scheduled, in production, on hold, completed, authorized payment, etc. And if we're happy where everything sits, we're going to click on to convert to quote. So you can currently see at the bottom, it'll give you an array of options. So we can still revert this to a draft if things change, or we can still do a cancellation of this if need be. So we would be happy. And what we want to do now is actually release that to the shop floor. As we can see now, we have an additional tab that is open at the top where it's now stated a works order, as our system would call that. And what we can currently see is that's actually been released now as a works order to the shop floor to actually continue and start that build. Now there's a range of things we can do from this point. We can download the build sheets. We can see that we have part of the torch. We can see some of the materials have been ready for collection. and a number of other options. If we continue to the top, we can have a look. We have an option for files. So from here, we can actually add any drawings or any specifications from a client, as well as if these get changed, we can update. And as we go through to notes, anytime something has been added or anytime something has been amended or captured, it gets timestamped. So we have a full record and history on what has been done and what has been changed at this point. So now what we're going to do, we're going to move away from the management panel and we're going to take it over to the shop floor. So what we want to showcase is that sales order that we created and it's been released to the shop floor. We're going to show you now what it looks like for the team on the shop floor to have that work ready for them to start. We have now logged into our shop floor interface. We can see our name is on top. So every shop floor will have a unique ID number or badge number, which they can log in with. We can see an array of different options for them. And where we're going to go into is into tracking. And we can currently see the work that is available for this worker, Tom, to actually get started with. So he has a work to list. And if he clicks into one, so you can see he's currently already started another job. Tom now wants to switch from that over into a new one, which he's going to do. And he now comes to the screen. So from this point, you can see how long the job is meant to take at this particular operation. We can see who the person is assigned to, where the work is taking place, and then once this operation is complete, where it's going to next. Tom also has access to have a look at the bill of materials and the material that's actually been allocated to this build, if there is any. He then also has access to those files that we were loading up. So you can have a look to see what the specifications are, what the work to list would look like, as well as then the actual finished product. And to keep the shop floor interface straightforward and simple for the team, it's there to aid them, not to slow them down. They have a simple set of functions at the bottom. One is pause, so if the job needs to be paused and they need to step away. A stoppage or stop, where something could be impacting the work, could be machine failure or parts failure, and then a green tick is actually once they complete the work. So we'll just give you a very quick overview. If we click onto the pause, you'll see that the job is paused. It gets pinned to the top of the screen. So Tom knows when he comes back, that is the job that he's been working on. And once he clicks on that, he can resume that job. If we then click onto the stop, you can see it will give you a select example of reasons. Again, these could be, as many could be added, and it could be whatever it needs to be for your particular shop floor. We can see that has been captured and that job is currently on stop. So we also do have the feature what we listed as dynamic fields. So it's a set of information that we can capture once we've actually completed the job at each operation. And these could be obviously varied to what you need to capture at your particular manufacturing site. As we're going to give you an example, say if Tom goes ahead and completes this job, we can see that a few options appear. One is an appearance test. So I'm currently building a torch and making sure that the final product is, if there's no damage or if there's light scratches, etc., etc. And we also, because we build in a torch, we actually have a brightness test as well. So we want to test that. So that's just an example of some of the data that we can actually capture after each of the operations. And this will show up when we're actually looking through the build as well, which will give you a little bit of insight too. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to go from the shop floor interface back to the management panel, and we're actually going to show you at the work that's being carried out, how that can be tracked and monitored. So here we have a set of different screens. So we have an end of line, an overview, and an employee screen. So we're going to start at the top on the end of line screen. And as we can see, we have all the jobs that are currently running. Now at the top screen, on top of the screen, we can see that we have an option to view. So this can be configured for the different work centers. So we could have multiple different views, and it can only showcase the work that is currently being carried out in that particular work center. or you could have it showcasing the entire shop floor and we can have a full view on what's going on. These can also be set up on screens around the shop floor so the teams can see what has been going on, are there any issues, and where the work is currently at what stage. It's a great way for them to be able to monitor themselves and actually see what's happening. If we then go over to the overview screen, we can then see a similar set of information, but with a little bit more of a deeper dive. And what we've seen the works order, the reference numbers, when it's required by the production date, the priority that's been set, and we can see a couple of bars at the end of the screen. One is showcasing the tasks, so how many tasks is actually within this build, the operations, how many have been completed, and then the actual time, the minutes that have been allocated for us to actually complete that build. So we can see how far we entered, or in fact if we're over. It also then gives a few different options. We can see there's a late box. You can see if it's ticked off or blank. And what that showcases, the allocated time that we have against the operations. If we're actually running over that, it would flag up that this build particularly is running late. Now, it's not late yet as in terms of it needs to be out the door, but based on the time that's been assigned to the build and actually what is currently happening on the shop floor, if we continue this way, we won't actually meet the production deadline. So it gives us an opportunity to make a decision in how we can get back on track. From the screen, we can touch a little bit deeper into the actual works order so we can have a look. And if we actually click into the likes of the tasks, we can actually go into that works order. We can actually have a look at the allocation tracking screen, and then we can actually see the work being carried out and who it's been carried out by. So we can have a look. We can see it's at the first stage. If we click into that, we can see that it's been assigned to Marek. We can see the time that it started. We can see the completed estimated time, as well as the actual completed actual time, which is quite important. We can also see that we had a set of dynamic fields, and we can see the QC tests that have been carried out. If there's any material that is being consumed at any of the operations, it would showcase under materials as well, so we can see what is actually being consumed at that point. So again, you can keep diving into further detail, or you just have the opportunity to have an overview and see what's happening against the shop floor. The last one we're going to showcase is just the employee screen. So it gives you an opportunity to see what staff are in today, what they're currently working on, and then where they're at that particular job. So we can see if things have been completed, if any jobs are on pause, any jobs that are unstopped, and then what next are they moving on to. If we click into any of the staff members, we can also have a bit of a history in terms of the works orders that they've actually been carrying out, and then again the actions against that as well. So we can see ones that are being paused, completed, stopped, etc., etc. Where we're going to take you over next, we're going to take you over to the inventory screen. This gives you the opportunity to actually see a number of different categories. So we have what we would class as a finished good, as the finished item. We would have any of the sub-assemblies, and we'd have the raw components, the materials that are then used in the build. So if we click onto, so we can see the image of that item, and if we actually click into the bill of materials, we actually show how that is made up and then some of the routines as it would follow through. So from here we can see what steps, those operations that we spoke about earlier, what they look like, the work centers where it's taking place, what the operations are. We can see the time that's been assigned to each of the operations, and then we can see the materials that are being consumed. These can be edited and changed on the fly. They can be changed particularly to a customer's order, and that will keep the workflow running smooth on the shop floor, and the guys will just continue to carry out what's in front of them. Which then follows us through very quickly into stock locations. So this could be scheduled up based on where you'd like to store the stock and how they can be tracked. If we click into our serial numbers, so we can see the items that have been serialized. If we would click over into suppliers. We can see the difference there with things like lead times, and we can capture that information. We'll give an example of what the purchase order would look like. So we can see we've had a variety that we've completed, and we'll click into one that's currently pending. And we can actually just show you very quickly if we were to go in and add. And on the left of the screen, we can add a variety of different custom fields with all the information that's necessary that you need to capture. So with all that information that we capture in live, again, it's what do we do with that? So we have a set of in-house built reports in the Dynamics platform, which we're going to showcase. So we cover a variety, we cover things from inventory, we cover from a resource, and if we click into one, if we go into employee utilization, and we just look back at a range, and we're looking at some clocking in time reports, so we can see a range of staff, and we can see things like track time versus idle time. All the reports are able to export. We click into others. We've got some good reports for finance, things like a sales margin reports, so we can see a list of the items, we can see the sold price, we can see the BOM cost, and if we move along, we can actually see then what that margin and margin percentage is. And as well as things like stopped order reports, financial reports, and quite important, the work in progress. So you got your WIP reports on the shop floor as well. Again, all reports can be pulled in real time. And as we said earlier, as we mentioned, having data in real time gives you an opportunity to make decisions as when they're needed, as opposed to when it's too late. So I hope you enjoyed the journey. Just of a light overview of the Dynamics platform. Feel free to get in touch with us if you'd like to find out more and you'd like to see more of the features, as there's plenty that we haven't shown you yet.